Vanakkam, Gurudeva, and everyone. Wonderful to be with you today. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And we'll share the screen. Here it is. July 16th in Asia, today. And our first topic is part 2 of the facets of character building from Vedanta Kesari, Swami Athmashraddhananda, which is Ramakrishna Mission Chennai, puts out Vedanta Kesari. It's their English publication, and sometimes they even have articles by us in it. I think we did one on Bhakti and Saiva-Siddhanta, which I should present sometime. Oh, he's continuing here. This means that character building is the result of whatever we do and do not do. For not doing is also a kind of action. But is character inherited, or is it subject to change? Can one change one's character? This is an important issue that bothers most human beings, and hence understanding it is essential to the whole process of character building. And that is the question to you. Can one change one's character? Of course, we all know the answer is yes, but some people don't think so. I've mentioned that sometimes in the character building lessons, that people say, well, that's just the way I am. What can I do about it? I'm an angry person. What can I do about it? There's lots you can do about it. You can become a person who doesn't get angry. So yes, we can change one's character based upon what we do and what we don't do. But we need to be ready for that change to be slow and steady. We don't expect to totally transform one's character overnight, otherwise we'll get disappointed in ourselves. According to Swami Vivekananda, the birth of a person does have a role to play, he said once. One child is born of a divine nature, another of a human, others of lower character. While parentage and formative period of one's life casts an influence on one's character, every human being has an opportunity to change himself. He can make a choice and can change himself. If it were not so, all spiritual counsels would be meaningless. All scriptures would turn ineffective, and man will remain condemned forever. We wouldn't use the word condemned. If past actions have played a role in making our present character, it naturally follows that our future character will be determined by what we do now. Swamiji explains. Swamiji always refers to Vivekananda. Look back on yourselves from the state of the amoeba to the human being. Who made all that? Your own will. Can you deny that it is almighty? That which has made you come up so high can make you go higher still. What you want is character, strengthening of the will. Herein lies, therefore, the secret of character building, strengthening of the will. The will is strengthened through repeated practices. It is akin to muscle building exercises. So this is their statement, which is exactly my statement. A man with strong muscles is a man who has exercised his muscles repeatedly. Repetition brings out the potential muscles. It is a process of inside out, of manifesting the perfection that is already within. This one sounds like me. However, there is no other way to lasting peace and meaning in life except by building character. There are no substitutes. strengthening the will. So as I always say when I talk about strengthening the will, compared to a jar of money, if you take money out of the jar, eventually the money goes away. Doing something with the money depletes it. Whereas when you exercise, you actually make your muscles stronger. You're creating more muscle. So that's the point. When we exercise the will becomes stronger. And we exercise it by controlling the instinctive mind and the intellectual mind, of course. Strengthening the will means training or controlling the senses and the mind and not be controlled by them. Katha Upanishad speaks of the human personality as a chariot, thus. Know the Atman to be the master of the chariot, the body, the chariot, the buddhi, discriminating faculty, the charioteer, and the mind, the reins. The senses, they say, are the horses, the object, the roads. A man who has discrimination for his character and holds the reins of the mind firmly reaches the end of the road. And that is the supreme position of Vishnu, the all-pervading consciousness. The secret of character building lies in training the mind. Let us recall the well-known passage about character building. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap your character. Sow character and reap your destiny. The whole process, as is evident from this, begins when we sow a thought. The problem and the solution to it lies with our thoughts, or to be more precise, with our willpower. It is the will which needs to be trained. To this one should become the master of the chariot instead of becoming a slave to the horses, senses, and the reins, mind or thoughts. This is an inner training wherein the charioteer, buddhi, has to be strengthened and re-educated. It has to learn to control the senses and the mind and not be controlled by them. Says Swamiji, he who has succeeded in attaching or detaching his mind to or from the centers at will has succeeded in pratyahara, which means gathering towards. Checking the outgoing powers of the mind, freeing it from the thraldom of the senses. When we can do this, we shall really possess character. Let us look at character building from the viewpoint of spiritual life, where meditation plays a central role. Meditation depends on concentration, and concentration depends upon withdrawal of the mind, which again depends upon self-control. A question for you. How do you define self-control? Self-control, which signifies mastery over the mind and senses. That's the definition. Mastery over the mind, thoughts, senses, going after external objects with desire, is therefore the secret of all success in meditation and also of mastering the character-building process. Self-control is a way of life. It is based on exercising and strengthening one's will on the right lines. One has to learn to control one's cravings and channel them in healthier means of expression. Chastity, truthfulness, and genuine sympathy are the three indispensable components of a true character. The approach to character building should be always positive. One should emphasize on nurturing positive virtues rather than getting rid of vices. This is a really good point. It is a widespread trend these days to emphasize the importance of overcoming addiction to alcohol, drugs, or other compulsive habits. In doing so, they emphasize on their harmful effects, but fail to emphasize on what one should do in place of such habits. The result is that people keep attending camp seminars and continue with their wrong habits also. So, story that's from my experience to illustrate. Recently I wrote to a devotee, I think you are being overly critical of yourself. Seeing the glass as half empty, meaning the person's character, rather than as half full, and slowly getting even fuller. My sense is you are making good, steady progress, and ideally would find more contentment with that process. So that's the goal. We want to acknowledge our shortcomings, but not become negative or overly attached to them, because we're making steady progress to improve. And the progress should bring contentment. Nor should one mistake character with talents. By talent is meant some special trait or capacity to do something, such as having an aptitude for singing or for writing or public speaking. One should not forget that while we admire talent, it is character that we really respect. Talent may bring us some fame and reputation, but it is character which is the real man. Swami Vivekananda rightly pointed out. And a question for you. How can you judge the character of a man? Before we give Swamiji's answer. And Swamiji says, if you really want to judge of the character of a man, look not at his great performances. Every fool may become a hero at one time or another. Watch a man do his most common actions. Those are indeed the things which will tell you the real character of a great man. Great occasions rouse even the lowest of human beings to some kind of greatness, but he alone is the really great man whose character is great always, the same wherever he be. Nicely said. One of the greatest helps in character building consists in living with the men of character. If one is fortunate enough to find the company of a man of character, one finds subtle changes taking place in one's own character. For company has a profound impact on the type of character one develops. More than what we are asked to do, it is the example of people with whom we live or admire that affects us most. So that's very important for those who have teenage children. They can develop friendships with those of compromised character, shall we say, and pick up those habits. So need to monitor friendships, anyone in that situation. And Thirukural, see if I can remember it. As water takes on the nature of the soil through which it flows, so a man takes on the nature of the characters he associates with. So just like water changes, it's very subtle. But sometimes we are not that fortunate. In that case, reading and deep thinking over the lives and teachings of such men of character is of much help. One should surround one's mental atmosphere with holy and inspiring thoughts. Since we become what we admire, we should choose our objects of admiration and adoration with care. To conclude, character building is the way to spiritual growth and is also the fruit of all spiritual realization. It is the foundation of true education also. To restrict education to acquisition of knowledge or mere degrees, as is the case many times, is to not get educated at all. One may lack academic knowledge, but if one has trained one's will, purified and controlled one's mind, he is then truly educated. He alone is able to live a true life and contribute to it meaningfully. Training of will should be the ultimate goal of all education. Be it in secular matters or in spiritual matters, building a noble and pure character is the only lasting solution to life's problems. Character, however, is not built only in the silence of meditation, though meditation is of great help in that. but in the broad daylight of right action. So that concludes our character building. You can see so many points are exactly the same points that Gurudeva makes, and therefore I make in our own character building material. Definitely looking at it the same way. And the second topic, question for you. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is popularly thought of as emphasizing controlling our conscious mind thoughts. What do the Yoga Sutras say about controlling the subconscious mind? Give you a minute on that. Bit more obscure than character building. They make two important points which will be brought up. Patanjali defines yoga in verse 2. Yoga is the restraint of mental activities. Chitta vritti, mental activities. Most individuals who talk to me about their efforts to do so have difficulty accomplishing this. Fortunately, Patanjali gives a suggestion as to how to succeed. The restraint of these mental activities is achieved through practice and dispassion. So, of course, I ask this question sometimes, what's needed in addition to practice? And the answer is dispassion, which is a translation of vairagya. The question was asked, how do we make progress in restraining mental activities? Okay, this is what I just said. A common answer given would be practice. I'm consistent. This verse is pointing out that in addition to practice, the other important component is dispassion. In other words, the reason many of these mental activities are occurring is because of our attraction towards something or someone. Attraction towards something or someone. It can be a positive attraction or a negative attraction. We're really angry with someone. Can't get them out of our mind. They really did something to us they shouldn't have. Can't stop thinking about them. That's a negative attraction. Really can't meditate until you calm down and figure out a way to accept it as your own karma. The subsequent verses further elucidate practice is the exertion to achieve steadiness in the state of restraint. That means sitting with quiet thoughts. But this practice becomes firmly grounded only after it has been cultivated uninterruptedly and with devotion for a long time. Two important points. Means uninterruptedly means your practice is regular. You're not once a week, then twice a week, then you skip a week. You need to be regular with the practice. So Gurudeva suggests 5 out of 7 days and taking the weekend off. So that would be considered uninterruptedly. And with devotion for a long time. So we can't expect total transformation within a year or two. Which is kind of the modern thinking. We're not in things for the long time. And let's see what dispassion is. Dispassion is the knowledge of mastery of one who is without thirst for objects that are seen or heard about. We don't desire. And how I define it for the family person is we don't hold the false concept, which is Gurudeva's term. Seed of desire is a false concept in relationship to corresponding objects. That applies to this. We don't hold the thought that that object or person is going to make us happy. That's the false concept. Wonderful to have relationships with people, but to think that that relationship is going to make an unhappy person happy is the problem. Likewise with objects. Nice to have beautiful objects, but to think they're going to make you happy when you're not is the problem. The supreme state of dispassion is the non-thirsting for the gunas which arises when the perception of the Purusha. Boy, is the concept well hidden in the terminology. What in the world does that mean? Gunas means the world. That's another word, another term Patanjali uses for the world. We're not desiring things in the world. Why don't we desire things from the world? Because we've perceived our own soul, perception of the Purusha. We found that being in touch with our soul is more fulfilling than pursuing things in the world. So that's the supreme state of dispassion. I think in the Sanskrit it's paravairagya. The supreme state of dispassion is the non-thirsting for the gunas. So that's why we meditate. We're trying to learn to find peace, contentment, insight within ourselves, and be so satisfied with that, we don't feel a need to thirst after objects in the world to make us happy. Clearly, the expectation that success in meditation will come quickly is incorrect. Not only does practice need to be for a long time, but done without interruption and with devotion. As to dispassion, it increases through attenuating the kleshas of ignorance, attraction, and aversion through the regular religious practice of Kriya Yoga. So again, that's pretty obscure, but it means what I was talking about. We are attracted to objects in the world, either in a positive or negative way, and that attraction can be reduced through the kleshas of ignorance. So ignorance is Gurudeva's false concept. Seated desire is a false concept in relationship to corresponding objects. One reason practice needs to be done for a long time is that a changing of the subconscious mind is involved, and the subconscious changes slowly. This involves the concept of samskaras. So we know samskaras in this sense means its most general meaning imprints left on the subconscious mind by experience. In modern thought we say memory, memories. So samskaras are memories. They've been imprinted in the mind from this or previous lives. Gurudeva explains, all actions, reactions, and pranic patterns from one life carry forward into the next, but in condensed or seed form as tendencies. Oh, that's beautiful. Swami Shivananda, Divine Life Society founder, makes a similar statement. All samskaras lie dormant in the chitta as latent activities, not only of this life, but of all previous innumerable lives. He then gives an analogy for the condensing process. As a merchant closing this year's ledger and opening a new one does not enter in the new all the items of the old, but only its balances, so does the spirit hand over to the new brain his judgments on the experiences of a life that is closed, the conclusions to which he has come to, the decisions to which he has arrived. This is the stock handed on to the new life, the mental furniture for the new dwelling, a real memory. And samskaras are also activators, constantly propelling consciousness into action. In this regard, they are described as subliminal activators. Restraint transformation is when the externalizing samskaras are subjugated by the appearance of restraint samskaras. These emerge in the mind as the movement of restraint, at the moment of restraint. Tranquil flow of consciousness is produced by these restraint samskaras. In other words, whenever restraint is employed, new samskaras are generated which subjugate the externalizing ones. Restraint samskaras influence the mind to be without mental activity and therefore remain in a tranquil state. So just the practice of restraining our thoughts is lessening the tendency of the mind to externalize. Think about what we're going to have for dinner, what we're going to watch for TV tonight when we're sitting and meditating. So again, that's a slow process. We're remolding the subconscious mind through restraining our thoughts, through meditation. And there's the second one. Another source of samskara transformation from externalizing and worldly to internalizing and spiritual is from mystical insights that come through deeper meditation. Sutras. The scope of this mystical insight is distinct from the insight gained from scripture and inference owing to its particular purposiveness. The samskara born from that mystical insight obstruct the other samskaras. So that's the second way we change the samskara mix, is by having insights, by intuitions. Every time we have an intuition, it's creating a type of samskara in the subconscious that lessens the externalizing ones. So those are the two ways we change the externalizing tendency of the subconscious mind, and it's gradual. Gurudeva comments on changing the subconscious. After the subconscious mind has been very, very carefully reprogrammed into the contemplative lifestyle, there is little difference to us between the subconscious and the superconscious intuitional states. Therefore, basically, we have moved our awareness into an entirely new mind structure. At least it seems new to us. This is called the sub-superconscious mind, or the area of the superconscious that has a subconscious which is connected with the physical body functions and everyday life affairs. The sub-superconscious state is the total man functioning at a higher vibratory rate than he did when in the instinctive intellectual area. What is the sub-superconscious mind? It is the subconscious of the devotee well programmed in the contemplative life. So it's been changed. This devotee can work with himself and move awareness freely through any area of the mind that he wants to, consciously, without being hindered by habit patterns and reactionary conditions of the past, which were programmed in the subconscious for him by parents, school teachers, friends, and the public in general as it came along through life from birth. So that's worthy of a comment there. That has a lot in it. So we're not hindered by habit patterns, and that's that idea of we're improving our character. And reactionary conditions, that's the idea of clearing out the subconscious of reactionary conditions of the past through the Vasana Tantra. And then we also use affirmations. So those are all the ways that we're changing the subconscious mind, and a portion of it becomes sub-superconscious, not the whole thing, because the parts that run the body, for example, you don't want to have to think about beating the heart and digesting food. All of that needs to go on without any modification. But this is the mind part that relates to the mind. And a question to you: what illustration do I often use to illustrate the need to both quiet our thoughts and purify, it's on the next slide here, and purify the subconscious mind to be successful in meditation? So, quieting the thoughts, purifying the subconscious mind to be successful in meditation. I commonly use this illustration. What is it? Here is an analogy to illustrate this idea. Imagine a pond of water with gold nuggets at the bottom. Either the surface of the pond has ripples due to a wind, or the pond itself is cloudy due to the presence of mud, the gold nuggets at the bottom of the pond cannot be seen from above. The ripples on the surface represent an active intellectual mind. So that's the chitta vritti. The cloudy water represents the impurities in the subconscious mind. That's when we have negative samskaras. And the gold nuggets at the bottom represent our soul nature. So experiencing the Purusha, as Patanjali says. So it's twofold. And lots of modern yoga teachers don't talk about the subconscious. It's not that popular. But even if you really get good at controlling your thoughts, if there's significant impurities in the subconscious, that's where you'll end up. You manage to go within, right into the subconscious unresolved issues. You won't get through them unless you go about clearing them out in a systematic way. Oh, thank you very much.